Satan will try to influence you. And sometimes he's successful in influencing you to speak. And what is the purpose of Satan influencing you to speak? Is that you may release something out of your mouth that he already has a correlation and understanding of, that whatsoever you release and whatsoever you bind shall be released and bound. So the prime question of the hour is, who is influencing you to speak? See, because if God's not influencing me to speak, I'm a birth in Ishmael. And the Ishmael birth produces issues. You can't get an Ishmael without influence, and you can't get issues without Ishmael. So if you got issues in your life, find out who the Ishmael is around you. Because we got some Ishmaels in our houses, in our communities, on our jobs. As we walk up and down on the telephone, we conversating with Ishmael. And the Ishmael, guess what they do? They produce issues. See, if I show you an apple, and I don't have to be a rocket scientist, I can say apple, core, seed, tree. Voila! I went in reverse and traced from the fruit to the seed. If you got issues and you don't kill the Ishmael, I don't care how much you pray. Ishmael produce issues. Kill the Ishmael. Get rid of the Ishmael. Ask Abraham. He said, Abraham, get away from your country, your kindred, and your father's house. Because if you stay there and you don't follow my instructions, you're going to create an Ishmael. Oh, I'm preaching good to myself right now. You can see the story. If you don't get away from there and follow my words, you're going to produce an Ishmael. I was designed to produce the promise. I was designed to birth promises. And I like what he did with Abraham. I grab Mark. You be Abraham. Let's sit there. And Abraham sitting there in the midst of his issues. And God is good. And he takes somebody's hand and he pulls him out of his issues. And he says, now look to the heaven. My God. Look to the heaven. Let heaven be your influence, that you may birth the promise. See, God has to do us like that. He has to take us out of our issues, away from the influences, that we can produce the promise in the midst. And my question to you before I sit down is that God is not going to share his platform with Ishmael. It's not going to do it. So when you're gathered with 2 or 3, My question and concern, are you in his name? Because if you're not in his name, he's not in the midst. And if he's not in the midst, then who's in the midst? I know y'all gonna answer me on that one. Somebody in the midst. And something is in the atmosphere. Hallelujah. Somebody is in the middle and someone's in the atmosphere. If he's not there, then who's there? Somebody just said it. Ishmael. Who allowed the Ishmael in? And if Ishmael is in, who gave him the platform? Because if there's a son on duty, why wasn't the Ishmael addressed? Why was the Ishmael allowed to have a platform and tell God to exit the building as though he was Elvis? Because God said, I can only be there in my name. For when Ishmael shows up, I've got to leave. What constitutes the Ishmael? Who is the Ishmael? See, the Ishmael shows up to talk to you about your promise. The Ishmael shows up to talk you out of your inheritance. I don't deal with Ishmaels who influenced that Ishmael that killed your promise. That's my question. Have you investigated the Ishmael that killed or that is killing your promise? Have you investigated the Ishmael that has killed or is killing your promise? Matter of fact, do you even understand your promises? Because see, if you don't even understand your promise, you don't even need to see the Ishmael. You already got pumped out your promise because you don't understand your promise. This is what I'm saying. Who influenced you? Did that church influence you? Did a traditionalist influence you? That became an Ishmael that you no longer have your promise. And I hear it all the time. You know how I know the influence is there? Through observation. And I listen. Because if somebody come up to me and I say, hey, I see you next week, and they look me in my face and say, if it's God's will, I'm like, who? What Ishmael is that? If it's God's will, you don't know God's will for your life. We're at this point debating the will that God has for you. If it's God's will, oh, that's an Ishmael right there. You got some serious issues to say this all the time. My mother used to say this all the time, didn't understand it. And I tried to tell LJ this too. I hope it worked. I said, LJ, at school, and when you get a job, they gonna have a gun. Everybody over you gonna have a gun. That's kind of not a real, you know what I'm talking, just using this in that sense. They're gonna have a gun, but you hold the ammunition. And if you don't ever give them no ammunition, their gun is useless, brother. You hold the ammunition. So if you release that ammunition and they shoot you in your butt, don't come back talking to me. Why did you release the ammunition? You got the ammunition. They can't do nothing until you release the ammunition. And I follow that. It worked in the natural and it worked in the spirit, baby. It worked in the natural. You know how I know? Been on my job, ain't nobody ever been able to say nothing. Because my mother said, be on time, be on time. Know your job and do your job. And it ain't nothing nobody can say to you. I got the ammunition and I'm walking all around y'all and it ain't nothing. How you like me now? Did you get that report? How you like me now? Yeah, I'm gonna be here in about hours early and stay about 3 hours late. How you like me now? It ain't nothing they can do with you. They mad. They're madder than a motorcycle with no oil in it. Screaming like a demon. And it ain't nothing they can do to you. See, that's how it is there. What are you giving the enemy? Because I'm telling you, you give him something, he gonna pop you. He gonna put it in one of them quadrants and give it back to you. Ask God, as long as the earth remains, there shall be seed time and harvest. See what we want to do? We want to be a student in one area. We want to get this. Oh, there my daughter back there. The needle waving hand. Thanks for birthing that in me, girl. In that one quadrant, we want to be A+. But there's 3 other quadrants. But see, that's what we want to do. We want to be A+ in that quadrant and say, God, that's going to suffice for the other 3 and the levels. All right. Because God, you know what? I pay my tithe faithfully. Okay, that's that quadrant. Okay, you got the East locked down. You got the East on lockdown, but what about the West Side boys? There's some West Side boys over there too. I know you got the East Side boy, but what about the West Side boys? Did you cover that? Oh, I didn't know we had to cover that. Yeah, that's why they're kicking you in your butt. Throwing up gang signs and kicking you in your butt because you ain't handled the West Side boy. You dealt with the East Side with your time. But you over there with the West Side, it's talking about sexual immorality and adultery. Oh, up jump the boogie. Oh, but you paid your tithe. If those don't work over there, you gonna be good in the tithe area. Oh, don't go over into the dietary area. That's the South Side. You ain't even dealt with that. You good all on the A-B side, but the South Side, you ain't dealing with no dietary. It ain't no damn, yo, fast, and it ain't this, and you can eat what you want to eat. You can do what you want to do. Okay? And the enemy said, just keep giving me that ammunition. Because as soon as grace run out, I'm popping you. That's real. And I don't care about your title. I don't care if your mama was a pastor and her uncle was one too. And they passed it together. I'm popping you. They don't care. It's real. Don't give them the ammunition. Church, the world needs us. And we have to become a student in these areas. Put the ammunition, which is your seed, on lockdown. And only release it as God has seen forth or sees forth. Only release it at that moment. And as I close, and we'll get into more of the details and nuts and crumbs of Wednesday. But if you don't hear anything I heard, church, be able to identify the Ishmaels. And I'm not saying identify the Ishmael with the purpose of exposing them in a condescending manner. Identify that Ishmael, welcome him in and know that you're a son. Do what you're supposed to do. Don't, see, you have dominion. You have dominion over these quadrants and the levels. So if an Ishmael comes in there, understand who has dominion. He doesn't have them. He has influence. You have dominion. He has what? You have what? Dominion always trumps. Y'all got to catch that. Because that's how the Ishmael comes in. Here come the dinners. Here come your fellowship meeting. Put his feet up on your table. Threaten you and wait to see if you're going to be a son. Or you're going to sit there and be influenced by him. This person got no dominion. They're going to let me come up in their house and influence them like that. Oh, you got to deal with that Ishmael